Inside out, and that sucks. I wonder
Good
if my underwear.
afternoon, folks.
Good afternoon, Mr.
Good
Ivan.
afternoon.
The Ivan Files.
It's good to see you all here today.
29 subscribers now.
Hey, yeah, I love it.
Keep the cards and letters coming in, folks, because we like to see those. We like some response. Now, what we're going to talk about today is what we talked about a little bit last time, which is the Constitution of the United States. And of course, you all have that by memory, so I don't need to refer to any paper except that in the New York Times Guide to Knowledge, they have a full Constitution with all the amendments and some comments about that too that went on during the time. But I'm following a lead and a suggestion here that we might, after the Constitution, a big thing, we talk about the Bill of Rights, and we can even knock that down to the First Amendment. And what we'd like to hear is what do you think about the statement that Congress can make nothing to say you have to have a certain religion or you can't have a certain religion. And I wonder, what do you think about it? Do you think that's really being followed in this country?
So you're talking about where is the freedom to practice religion fall in the Constitution? Or it doesn't, right?
But the freedom to, well, it does kind of, nobody makes any laws about whether or not you can practice your religion. However, there are laws in this country, and for instance, Muslim, coming from the old country, might be used to having a chief or somebody, whatever they call it, but it's very much of it's kind of like a king, only it's the a person who is kind of the spokesperson for it.
Like a father, in the Catholic religion, or a preacher
Yeah. So, how do you think that would merge with the Constitution, constitutional right, the rest of the Bill of Rights, for instance, freedom of speech? That would fall under that, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Right. I mean, freedom of religion would qualify under freedom of speech, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the reason it's there is like you want to allow people the thought that they have the ability to choose, right? I think that's kind of why that's there in my mind. Like very rarely are people going out and starting their own religions, though it does happen. It doesn't happen very often. Yeah.
Yeah.
Feels like that freedom of choice is more of a freeing ideology than anything, right?
Well, this kind of cultivates a little bit of a dark question in my mind. Texas, help me.
You're talking about the
Texas.
When we went in there and the ATF went in there, for the love of my...
not Wilcox.
Yeah.
It was all televised.
It was
Waco,
Texas.
Yeah.
So, that guy stood on the platform that I have the right to. I own this land. These people are here by choice, and all of that. So we went in there and screwed that up. To be quite honest with you,
burned it down.
Yeah, we burned it down, but that was handled improperly through my vision. But that is a very big way to say, do you really have the freedom to practice religion?
Yeah.
And, not that I agree with anything that man did, not that I agree with anything that, the Mormon that marry polygamist. I don't agree with polygamy. Me personally, number one, who the hell would want that many wives?
I think we probably have a trend in this country
Yeah, right? Nobody
where
would.
freedom of religion is great until it starts impeding other rights, is kind of what it feels like to me.
Yeah.
Like as soon as you are, convincing people that they should commit suicide, like you've seen some of those types of cults out there, that's when the government has issues. Right. And like I couldn't tell you like the play-by-play on Waco, but I know they had guns.
They did. It was ATF.
I know there was violence involved, and I probably shouldn't speak to that incident specifically, but anytime one of those different religions impedes on other rights within the Constitution, that's when it feels like the government gets involved time and time again. Like there's still people out, there's moon children down in Central Oregon that are still living their lives. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's true.
So it's a sticky wicket, isn't it, Dad? I mean, the Constitution it's a set of rules / guidelines /
I think Waco, what they also saw in Waco was they were dealing with minority children, doing things like, marriage contracts and stuff like that. And that's certainly illegal in our
culture.
In our way. But I'm not sure it's illegal. It's just a law that probably Texas has, and it's a federal law that you don't get minorities in that way. They're protected. And so, they I think, used that to go in and do what they did. But there's people coming across the border, and there's people coming into our land from elsewhere who have different religious and philosophical thinking and beliefs, and as long as it doesn't impact on our freedoms, it's okay.
If they're not a citizen, are they beholden to the Constitution?
Well, now there's an interesting question. Last week, I said to Paul, the 14th Amendment, which was the big amendment to get everybody on board, all the black people and everything, to heck with this, what was it, 3/5 or whatever that they voted before. The 14th Amendment allowed for, if you're born or naturalized and fall under the jurisdiction of the United States, you're a citizen. Now, I made the mistake of saying the Mosaic Law. And the Mosaic Law was, as I understand it, was if you're one of the group, but you fall within that group, you come to that group for care and sustenance and so on, you fall under the jurisdiction of that group, and you then become a member of the group. In this case, it would have been the Israelites out there, and you are subject to the laws of that group. Well, we don't quite have that, so that was it's a difference.
Interesting.
And I'm listening to Alan Dershowitz, which is fascinating. He says the whole idea that we are argumentative, that the Jewish people are argumentative, comes from the Bible. And the book of Genesis has all of that in it, and it's just fascinating to listen to him. I can't repeat it all, of course, but it is fascinating that...
Alan Dershowitz?
Alan Dershowitz. It's a series of 6 tapes. And it's just fascinating to listen to of how he's a constitutional lawyer, I believe, and teaches at Harvard. Well, that doesn't, but he's a constitutional lawyer, and so he kind of knows what he's talking about
Yeah.
when he reviews that. But he's also a Jew, you know.
Yeah.
So how does that all fit together? Eh? Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating.
Why are churches, in your guys' why are they exempt from taxation?
Oh, well, here. What I heard on
It's a hell of a way
NPR,
to hide money, in my opinion.
the other day was they were interviewing a person from the black church. That's what they said, black church. And what they were talking about was how the black church and the Democratic Party are working together. Well, now that's not supposed to be. If you're getting a 501c3 and you're tax exempt, you got no business
Being near politics.
being in politics, and that's the reason it's tax exempt. And it's a beautiful thing because it's like, well, when you guys do the auctions and people have money, extra money that they want to put towards a philosophic, I'm sorry, that's
Entrepreneurial.
like a bunch of kids
Mm-hmm.
to help that grow and take care of those kids and raise them and so on. What was I going to say?
I don't know. Well, I think what you were saying is, when they get to give their dollars, then they're not taxable. However, that's if they're not receiving something. Help me on this one, Shelby, because I always get confused. We used to say everything's tax deductible. Then there was something that came out a few years ago that they were capping the amount that you could donate.
Yes.
And
I don't know.
I don't know if that cap was across the board with churches or all entities.
I believe it was all entities. Yeah, I mean, they capped the charitable giving, and it had to do with the way that you were writing off on your taxes charitable donations, and that changed. I think part of it had to do with the value of the item at some point, and then I think since then the value has changed
Or
a little bit.
things like that would be given.
Yeah.
Because if you bid on something at an auction and let's say the value is $1,700 and we sell it for $4,000, they only get $2,300, right?
Right, so the write-off is in the excess of the value of that item.
Yeah.
Is what the write-offs had to do. So if you were buying something below value, then it couldn't be considered a donation. Now I don't know if that's changed back at all. I know that there are some individuals that still want us to say tax exempt when we are going towards the straight cash donations. But
That's
that
something we
also
should
depends
keep
on the-
up to date on our podcast.
Yeah.
We should look into those
Yeah.
changes and things like
Yeah.
that.
That's not hard.
No, we could always just ask you.
There's actually a newsletter that's produced. Have you seen it?
Mm.
Yeah, it's about giving and that whole thing.
What's the name of the newsletter? No,
It's on one of the computers.
Yeah.
it's somewhere.
Somewhere.
It's downloaded.
Yeah, it's somewhere. But
Yeah.
now I
Interesting.
want to shift to what you heard, and let me see was
You like Shelby more than
the
you like
World Economic
Yeah.
Forum,
Yep.
and the speech by the president of
Argentina.
Argentina,
It's pretty.
who he was really quite vocal about the idea that the whole West is shifting towards socialism.
I need to finish watching that.
And he says that, that's the same as toward loss of freedom. And I would say all you have to do is read Will and Ariel Durant's Lessons of History. And it's a thin book, but it's about this. They wrote this huge bunch of volumes about the lessons of about history of civilization, and then they said the lessons of history were just, and that's it.
Right.
And what he had to say in there, of course, socialism was just bad.
Yeah, and the reason that sparked in my mind is we talked about this a little bit last week, and you had said the younger generation leans more socialist. This is essentially what we started talking about for a good 10-minute run. And then when I saw this speech from the president of Argentina, it was basically a warning to the West. It was basically like, hey, socialism is creeping into your society, and we've been there. We tried it in Argentina, and it didn't work. Yeah. And it's really an interesting talk if you haven't looked at it, because he goes and he breaks down like different decades throughout Argentina's history, and he shows how their GDP was significantly higher every time they were on a capitalist track compared to when they were on a socialist track. I thought the really interesting observation from that is when he starts talking about monopolies. And he basically, kind of alludes to monopolies creating groupism. Was it groupism or something of that nature? I forget the actual terminology. I think it was groupism or something like that. And essentially, like, what it sparked to me was like, okay, if we have these big monopolies in our society, and then the government props it up to keep other people out of those businesses, now we can't have capitalism do what capitalism does, to go in and really attack that market to get the margins out of it. And one of the podcasts I was listening to that was analyzing this speech from the president brought up the example of Boeing. And because Boeing is the 16th most lobbying company in the nation, on the Hill, really? They have all of this red tape in place to where people can't come in and produce parts for them because they're the one shop in town. Wow. So now we're seeing, later down the line, Boeing, and I don't know much about this, but it's evident that they are taking advantage of the system because you could be cutting costs with other companies coming in and producing these at lower costs. Yeah. But because they're late stage, they're fat and happy, they're not going through innovating the way that they could be with competition, it's creating like a breakdown of the quality of the items. So it was an interesting observation to get aside this speech from the president of Argentina.
How do you though?
That's a really great analysis there.
Yeah.
How do you avoid that? Shelby.
This is Shelby and this is Kelly.
Oh yeah, Kelly Shenfield, Shelby Stokes.
This guy.
But how do you get rid of that, or how do you protect yourself from that? I'll give you an example. We are going through a lot of transition in our company, right? As well as Mark and I personally, and you guys personally, but we're just one very big happy family, and we love that. But how? So here we're at a point where, I'll give you an example, my cell phone bill. Mm-hmm. So we had 3 lines on that cell phone bill. We took one off because he can't hear it, he can't see it, all that. Mm-hmm. So I paid off the remainder on his phone and went down to 2 lines. And because it went down to 2 lines, my price went up because I got a break with 3. Yeah. So I go to Comcast and I say to Comcast, hey, why is my bill going up? And they tell me it's tax, and they showed me right there, $84 in tax. They showed me the line item. It's crazy. Yeah. It is crazy amount of taxation on TVs, and even though they're taking away channels from people. But now they say, we use Verizon services. We are contracted with them. If you bring your Verizon plan over to Comcast, we will lower your bill $45, your Comcast bill, and we will charge you less for your phone bill. So how is a person that doesn't want there to be socialism, or monopolies, how do I say no to that? When personally, every day's a struggle. That's what you don't...
Yeah.
That's the problem, and that's how it's generated, isn't it?
I think so. That, and you take into consideration that we're just big groups now. Like big society is definitely an interesting problem that we have to tackle. I think part of it is, the taxation being so significant means that the government has to prop itself up because it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Where is Robin Hood?
Where is Robin Hood? Where is Robin Hood?
They cut all the trees down.
Man.
Yeah. I mean, how do you as an individual change that? I don't have the answer for you.
The vote box.
In the vote box.
You got to convince the young people. You got to convince the people of this nation that where we are now is not wonderful, but it's a whole heck of a lot better than it would be under socialism.
Yeah.
And some of the people that are down and out and devastated say, well, what do you mean? You know, at least we get some. That you have to deal with that whole issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too that, you know, your vote does matter. It
does.
but not really for the presidents. They're not really. I mean, cast your vote for your president, whatever. Whoever wins, right?
The legislature.
It's the legislature that you really have to focus on in your vote, and educating Sophia, Isabel, all those guys about the importance of that and how that can change the outcome of their future. But I still am a bleeding heart and want the homeless situation handled. So you know, those thoughts bump into each other, because there's part of me that says, number one, if you think you have it bad in this country and you can walk into your kitchen and get a glass of water, you probably should shut your pie hole.
Yeah, we were at a
because there's plenty of people carrying buckets.
And I said that the other day. I said that at the conference. You know, we're not walking for water. And Kayla made fun of me the whole way home. She's
But
like,
it's
I'm gonna
true.
remind you of that when you're tired come June. I'm gonna remind you of that.
It's very true.
But it's true. You know what? We're very blessed and privileged to be in the situation we're in. And I think that, you know, going back to this talk from the president of Argentina, you know, he almost tries to remind the West in that speech that, like, you have it so good that you've kind of forgotten what it's like to be bad.
Yeah.
And that is scary, because I think there's some truth to that in our society.
Yeah.
You know, I've always kind of been a hard worker, at least I believe I am. And, you know, I think some in my generation and younger think, why do we have to work that hard? We shouldn't have to work that hard. And I think in the capitalistic society we're in, it's easy for lower and middle class to look at the haves or the multi-millionaires and say, well, that's not fair. And then socialism kind of creeps in.
Yeah.
I don't know what the solution is, but what I can say is that capitalism needs to remain at the forefront of this nation to keep it going. And we need to allow the government to loosen its grip to allow innovation in some of these spaces.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
I mean, it's scary at times. Like I see you have notes here about AI. I don't know if we'll get there or not, but like that's a scary thing to consider. And the government is already like, how are we going to regulate this? Because it's scaring the heck out of them. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, like we have to let it take its course, or the government's going to mess it up again.
Yeah. No, you're right on that.
One thing
I'm less scared.
it's
Less
going
scared.
to, you know, the whole 501c3 exempt thing goes out the window, because nobody can write off what they give to others to survive, or to a blessing of some sort. Anyway,
But I think people, you know, I know you're going to move on to another thing, but I think the majority of the people that are giving, yes, they like the tax break. They do. But they're not in that mindset when they're in
that's not the only thing.
our rooms.
I mean, I would disagree.
You would.
I would disagree.
You think
Yep.
that they're only wanting the tax write-off.
I would say it's a business play, right? I mean, you're able to kind of help your taxes. You're
See,
able
I'm a
to
softie.
prop up an
I'm not good
organization
at
that you
this.
want to.
Yeah.
You know, you're able to keep friends that are passionate about something employed. Like it's multi-tiered. Do I think they're just giving out of the goodness of their heart? No.
See, I
truly
dream
don't.
about pink clouds and things too.
Yeah.
So I,
Well,
I would like people
I mean-
to just give because it feels good, and and the haves and the have-nots. The majority of the haves that I have anything to do with probably are also looking at their books, but
Well,
they do
okay.
give for.
I will say this. There is something, and Ivan can probably reference the Bible better than I can, but there is something to be said about giving away some of your wealth and like it doing good in the world. And that's been proven time and time again in the Bible, in like abundance type mindsets, in business relationships. If you're giving 51% away, or whatever that relationship is that benefits others, it normally does play back into the well-being of yourself.
What does that say? To whom much is given?
That's probably, well, that would be interesting to follow up on with some research to be able to say that exactly.
Yeah.
I believe there's something in the Bible, and I'm going to have to cross-check this because I could be wrong, right? To whom much is given, much is required.
What did you say?
To whom much is given, much is required.
Where's that?
We're going to find it.
Well,
Because you can read the Bible and make it
make it
go
the way
any way you want
that's
to.
right.
Yeah.
So we'll find that.
Yeah.
Where in and I'll get the right statement for the next podcast, but it's something along the lines, to whom much is given, much is required.
But also, if you've got $100 and you spread it out over 10 people, pretty soon one person is going to have $99 and everybody else is not going to have anything.
Yeah.
That's been proven. That's because these people go after it, and these people just don't. They don't. They're like auto workers. When they take down the auto industry or any of that sort of thing, it's a big impact on them. They don't have the wherewithal to go out and start a big business or something like that. So.
You might be too young to remember this, but there were some things going around years ago that were send $1. You'd get an envelope in the mail and it got $1, and you send $1 to 10 of your friends, and those 10 friends. Do you remember those kind of waved through?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, no, you'd get $1 in the mail. It happened to me, and I thought, oh yeah, I'm gonna get rich so
Yeah.
fast. Get my mouth
Well,
on.
a whole lot of people thought.
So then you send $1 to 10 people,
Mm-hmm.
and then those 10 people send $1 back to you and to 9 people,
Yeah.
and then then those people send $1 to you, $1 to them, and then $1 to 8 more people. I never got $1. I started it thinking I could do it. God, this is in the early
This is a
80s.
pyramid scheme.
It is, but it was
Yeah.
a real deal.
Huh.
And I thought, I'm going to be coming into some money. And I kept running to the mailbox after I gave my $10 away, and I'm like, ain't got shit.
The only legal pyramid scheme is Social Security,
Yeah.
and that's legal,
Yeah.
And it is a pyramid scheme
Oh,
when you think
jeez.
about it.
Well, you want to save this for the next time, or you want to keep on going? We got about a half hour, Shelby. Is that right?
Yeah, I think we're yep, about a half an hour.
I was looking at this and trying to figure out, how does it go? Like from democracy to socialism to autocracy to a dictator to
Loss of freedom.
loss of freedom, and then eventually a
Revolution.
revolution, and then back to democracy again. Is that a cycle that we're in?
Has that cycle already happened in our country? That you can tell?
Once.
Okay.
But and the whole Civil War was actually about. It wasn't about slavery. It was about the North telling the South what they have to do, and so they're going to secede from the Union, and that is blatantly illegal in the Constitution. So that's what that war was about. But slavery was a benefactor of that. And a lot of people don't realize that. They'll say that the Civil War was all about slavery. It was not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they need to study their history a little bit. But anyway, that's a cycle. Is that a cycle?
That is a cycle if
It
it's
feels
happened.
like it.
Yeah, if it's
Yeah.
happened already.
And so how do we how do you solve this thing? It's like, how do you get that's something we didn't talk about that those guys did talk about quite a bit was AI.
Mm.
You know, the economic people,
Gotcha.
AI.
Yeah.
And
Let's move into that next week.
okay.
Yeah, and give Shelby and I a chance to like research that cycle thing a little bit and how AI could do that.
Well, yeah. Mostly it's the people that vote that will move it that direction. And I don't know that Mother Earth has her own way of putting
Kibosh on
exclamation,
all of it, yeah.
exclamation points behind something. And you think it's okay, huh? How's this for a 9 earthquake, huh? How you like your house in the air?
Yeah, no joke. Figure that out.
Hey, if you guys have any questions or comments for the Ivan, we would really appreciate it if you would email him. His email has changed, and let's figure out a way that we can post it.
Ivan1933 at gmail.com.
It is the Ivan1933 at gmail.com. And please, let's get that subscribership up to 50. We're at 29 now, so hit subscribe if you like listening to this guy, because we sure do.
Listen to us.
Yeah. We're here for you,
All
buddy.
of us. Yeah. Good people.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
We'll
guys.
see you next thing, and I'm really having second thoughts about crab wrestling. So I might shift into something else there.
Or we're going to bring a crab on stage this summer.
Oh,
We're
there
gonna
we
watch
go.
him
Get some
wrestle.
kings in here. Now
Yeah.
we're talking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So long.
So long. Have a good week.
Bye, guys.